Pete Buttigieg joining me now. He is your Secretary of Transportation. He was in the room last night. You can find him on Twitter at Secretary Pete. Do we have the Secretary?
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, good morning. Welcome back. It's great to have you.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, what was it like in the room last night with that call and response and all that agitation?
It was really, really energizing, because of some of the pandemic provisions a year ago. This is actually the first time in this presidency that we've had the normal, so to speak, State of the Union in terms of, just having the room full and seeing the president be able to lay out his vision with everybody there. I thought was really inspiring. When you're in the trenches, you're just going through the day-to-day work. Sometimes you don't step back and look at what have we done over the last 2 years? What have we accomplished and what's ahead? But hearing him remind America, of what it means to have the most jobs created in 2 years under any president ever, 12 million plus jobs, the comeback of American manufacturing with the hundreds of thousands of jobs that have been created there, seeing the lowest unemployment since long before I was born, at the same time as inflation is coming down. And a lot of that, by the way, achieved on a bipartisan basis. Just behind me were a number of Republican senators, including Mitch McConnell, who was with the president, celebrating that a big bridge that we're funding, linking Ohio and Kentucky, that's possible because of that bipartisan infrastructure plan. So there was, I think, a lot of energy, a lot of reminders of the positive achievements, but also a lot yet to be done. And I thought the president spelled that out in a way that I hope Congress is willing to listen to and work with them on.
Stylistically, Mr. Secretary, it was intriguing to watch the president engage and address his speech to the lawmakers in the room. Usually we see presidents talk over their heads to the camera, but he was like down there in it with them.
Yeah, I think, he was, as you saw, thinking on his feet, making sure that he was responding to the response, so to speak, as he in particular called on the GOP members in Congress to really distance themselves from what a few of the Republicans in Congress have proposed about cutting or reducing Social Security. It sounds like, based on what played out on the floor, that there is a commitment that they will join him in rejecting any cuts to Social Security and Medicare. I certainly hope that's true. I don't see how they could do it after last night. But then again, Congress is full of surprises. But I think this is part of a bigger call saying, look, if you want to have a negotiation about spending and the fiscal path of this country, write your plan down. He has to. I mean, that's part of the budget that's going to be submitted, and a really important starting point to have any kind of back and forth over what the right answer is for the congressional GOP to actually put their plans on the table. We haven't seen it yet. But hopefully they can agree among themselves on what they think we ought to do, so that we can at least start the push-pull that's part of the process.
Heading into the speech, Mr. Secretary, the weekend before, we saw a lot of public polling from newspapers showing Americans a little bit all over the place. They felt good about their standard of living and the quality of life in America, but downbeat about the economy, still very concerned about inflation and giving the president some mixed reviews. CNN flash poll of the State of the Union found 72% of viewers had a positive reaction. They said Biden's policies will move the country in the right direction. That's up 19 percentage points from before his speech.
Yeah, I think what that shows is that there's, if all you're hearing is the negativity that's out there on the internet and some corners of the media, then you could easily lose sight of stunning facts like having the lowest unemployment in I don't even know how many presidencies. I mean, literally, my entire lifetime and then some, and all of the other achievements that he shared with the country. So I think it shows that even in the internet age, when you just pause and spend more than 30 seconds listening to an account of what's going on, it can really have an effect. It can remind us of what's been achieved and the work that's yet to be done. And so I think cutting through the noise really does serve the president and the administration well, I never get too caught up in these poll numbers, because you could have said the same thing in October of last year, and obviously things turned out a little differently than people expect. I think because people are seeing results, but we're under no illusion. There's a lot of work yet to do. Inflation's come down, but it's got to go down further. People have been, so many lives have just been disrupted and affected, mostly by the pandemic and its related economic effects. We're coming out of it, but it's not over. And that's exactly why I think the president was calling on Congress to work with him, not to reverse the steps that made it possible to have all of these good economic numbers and good stories and good results, but to keep moving forward, at least on the things that we could try to agree about. And that's the other thing I think was really striking. You could feel in the room, there were some things everybody agreed on, some things that the congressional Republicans on the floor seemed to take exception to. But I'm pretty sure that every single thing he called for last night has a very strong American majority among the American people who agree that it's the right thing to do. And that's why I think that it could be the basis for some more good bipartisan work.
I mean, that's always been what's bedeviled immigration reform, right? A majority of Americans say, yes, path to citizenship, no jumping the line, et cetera, pay some fees, things like that. But Congress can never get it done.
Yeah, we know what the outlines of the deal look like. I think it's been well understood by the American people for years. It's just those things you mentioned. The right measures around border security, coupled with things like fair path to citizenship and other steps that need to happen. The American people agree. Congress almost agreed a few years ago, couldn't quite get there. And the president's reminding everybody that if you just want immigration to be a problem to score political points on, that's one thing. But if you actually care about solving it, there's a path.
So we're now into phase 2 of State of the Union. The president off to Wisconsin. He's also going to visit Florida, talking up his achievements and his agenda. What's your piece of this? How will you be deployed?
So I'll be heading out to the Gulf Coast. I-10, the bridge, it's called the Calcasieu Bridge in Louisiana, is an example of one of the kind of major projects that is important to our supply chains, important to communities, and just couldn't get done because we didn't have the funding for years and years and years. Now it's finally getting done, and it's getting done thanks to the bipartisan cooperation that got us big funding to put into big infrastructure projects. So really looking forward to seeing that tomorrow. And along with my cabinet colleagues who are going to be all over the country, the president and the VP traveling, I think just a great chance to drive home that message that the president delivered so effectively last night in Congress.
We were so geeked up thinking you were going to run for that Michigan Senate seat, but no go.
No, I'm really focused on the job that I've got. I was flattered that some folks thought of me and raised the question of whether I would be interested in that. But look, we're 2 years in on this administration, and many of the programs that were created, we spent year 1 getting this package through Congress, year 2 creating the programs and standing them up. It's really this year and next year that we're naming the projects, identifying the places we're going to make the biggest difference, and seeing funding begin to turn into construction. So definitely not looking to be anywhere besides right where I am, subject to the pleasure of the president to keep doing this work.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Find him on Twitter at Secretary Pete. Thank you so much for joining me.
Same here. Thanks for having me on. Good talking
Great to
you.
talk.